Hello everyone, welcome to Intelligence Kernel. I am Shimontini and today's video is the second part of narration change, direct speech and indirect speech. Now guys, before you start watching this video, I would suggest you to first watch the part 1 of narration and narration change, then come to this video and watch it. Because in the part 1 I have discussed what is narration change, what are the rules for narration change, what is reporting verb, what is a reported speech, how do we transform direct speech to indirect speech. I have discussed about it all in the first part of narration and narration change. So make sure to check the video out first. You can click the I button above and check it out from there, or I will give you the link of the video in the comment section below as well. You can check it out from there as well. Now guys, in this channel I upload new videos about English and English grammar and their practice sets. Each week I upload 2 new videos. One video is about the tutorial video of English and English grammar, and the another video is the practice set of that particular topic. So if you are a student, or if you are searching for jobs, or if you just want to write something on your own, it can be anything like poetry or story, anything, and you don't know where to begin with when it comes down to the English grammar portion, then you have nothing to worry about, because this channel is the right channel for you. Here I'll be covering the basics of English grammar, the advanced part of English grammar, so make sure to stick around. Now guys, before we start today's topic, don't forget to subscribe to Intelligence Kernel and hit the bell shaped icon beside the subscribe button, so that each time I upload a new video here, you immediately get notified about it. Alright, so now let's begin. So, narration change, direct speech and indirect speech, part 2. Today we will learn about interrogative sentences, transforming direct speech into indirect speech. What happens? What are the rules to do that? First one, the reporting verb changes into ask, inquire, or demand. The next rule, no use of that to introduce the reported speech. Now the third rule, if the reported speech has no question word such as who, which, why, whom, when, how, whose, then if or whether is used to introduce the reported speech. Now the next one, question is turned into a statement and full stop is used in the place of question mark. This is very important. You have to remember this one, that when we are transforming a direct speech into an indirect speech in case of interrogative sentences, we will not put question mark at the end of the sentence. We will only put a full stop. Alright, now we will see the next part. Interrogative sentences in narration change. What are the parts of it? There can be 3 types. Questions that begin with interrogative words. What do I mean by interrogative words? The WH words such as who, when, whom, which, how, etc. We will look at the examples in the next segment. Now, what's the second type? That is yes-no sentences. And now comes the last type, that is questions that begin with a helping verb. Now we will look about each type in the next segment, right? Let's start. First one, questions that begin with interrogative words. I will give you some examples, then I will describe those examples to make you understand what happens, right? So first one, direct speech. He said to me, when will my parcel arrive? What's the indirect speech to this one? He asked me when his parcel would arrive. So now we will see that what is happening here. this is a question sentence. What happens? He said to me, we can see that in the direct speech it is said that he said to me. So what will happen in the question sentence? According to the rules that we discussed earlier, said to will become asked. So he said to me will be he asked me. Now what will happen? Earlier in normal sentences we saw that the comma in the direct speech will be replaced by the word that. But we saw here in the rules section that no that word will be used in the indirect speech in case of a question sentence. So we won't use the word that in the indirect speech here. We will just omit the comma. Now what happens? In the reported speech, we can see that the reported speech starts with a question word or a interrogative word or a WH word. So what happens? We saw that in the reported speech, if this is a question sentence in the reported speech, in the indirect speech, we will not use the question mark, we will use a full stop, right? So we have to turn the question sentence into an assertive sentence. What will happen? When will my parcel arrive? What will be the assertive sentence of this reported speech? The my will become his, because the speaker is he here. So when will my parcel arrive will become when his parcel would arrive, right? Why? First of all, we need to see that the will become would, because the reporting verb is in past tense. This is a segment that we already discussed in the part 1 of the narration change video, right? So because the reporting verb is in past tense, said, that's why the verb of the reported speech will be also transformed into its past tense. So will become would. Now how do we transform a question sentence into an assertive sentence? We just change the position of the verb. In the question sentence, first we use the verb, then the subject. But in an assertive sentence, first the subject, then the verb, right? So when will my parcel arrive will become when his parcel would arrive. First, in the question sentence here, we use the verb first, then the rest of the part of the sentence. But in the assertive sentence, we will first use the subject, his parcel, then we will use the verb, that is would, then we will use the word arrive, right? And the most important part, we won't use the question mark in the indirect speech. Instead of it, we will use a full stop. And of course, the inverted commas will be disappeared. This is also something that we already discussed in the part 1 of narration change, right? Now guys, I will give you some other examples to make you understand that what are the other WH words or what happens in case of other WH words in case of question sentences that begins with an interrogative word. Alright, now the next example. Direct speech. She said to him, "Why are you late?" What will be the indirect speech for that? She asked him why he was late. Again, we will see that what is happening here. She said to him will be she asked him. The comma will be omitted. No that will be used here. Just the comma. We will not use the comma. Just that. Then of course the inverted commas will be omitted as well. Now, why are you late will be why he was late. See, if there is an interrogative word in the beginning of a reported speech, we will just use the interrogative word as it is. So if there is an interrogative word, we will just put it here after the earlier section. Like she said to him will be she asked him, then without thinking anything we will use the WH word after that. We will just use why. Now for the rest of the sentence, this is a question sentence. Are you late? It will be he was late. You will become he because she said to him, right? That's why the you will become he. Now again the verb in the reported speech are will become was because the reporting verb in the direct speech is in past tense. So are will be was because we used he here, that's why it will be was. And now late, why he was late. And lastly we will use a full stop instead of the question mark. Understood? Now the next one, direct speech. Tony said to her, which house are you looking for? The indirect speech for this one will be Tony asked her which house she was looking for. Here what is happening? The same thing. Tony said to her will be Tony asked her. We will not use a comma here. Now the WH word, which will be exactly as it is. Which house are you looking for? Here again the verb is in the first because it's a question sentence here. Now comes the subject, but we will transform it into an assertive one. So first we will put the subject here, she, then the verb. Because the reporting verb is in past tense, again the verb in the reported speech will be transformed into past tense as well. She was, right? Which house are you looking for will become which house she was looking for, and the question mark will be replaced by full stop. And of course we won't use any inverted comma in the indirect speech. Now the next one, direct speech. Rima said to us, how have you solved the question? The indirect speech for this one will be Rima asked us how we had solved the question. What is happening here? Rima said to us will be Rima asked us. Comma will be omitted obviously, and the inverted commas will also be omitted. How, this is another interrogative word, we will just put the how here. Now have you solved the question? Here the you will be replaced by we because Rima said to us, that's why. Solved will be had solved. Why is that? That we earlier discussed in the part 1, that because the reporting verb is in past tense and the verb of the reported speech is also in past tense, so either while transforming it into an indirect speech, either it will remain exactly the same or it will be changed into the past perfect tense of the particular verb. So the past perfect tense of the verb solved is had solved, right? Now the question, the rest of the part. So we transform the question sentence in the reported speech into an assertive one. How have you solved the question will become how we had solved the question. And of course lastly we will use full stop instead of question mark. I hope you understand that. Now comes the next example. Direct speech. He said to her, whom do you want to call? The indirect speech for this one will be he asked her whom she wanted to call. What is happening here? He said to her will be he asked her, right? We won't use the comma, we won't use the inverted commas as well. Whom, the interrogative word will be here exactly how it is. Whom will be just whom. Now do you want to call? How can we transform this sentence into an assertive one? It will be she wanted to call. Now guys, you must be thinking that how are we changing the question sentence into this assertive one. See, do you want to call? This is a question sentence on its own. How do we change it into an assertive one? What will be the assertive sentence for this one? It will be, you want to call. Do you want to call? The assertive sentence for this question sentence will be, you want to call, right? Now we won't be able to use you want to call. Why is that? Because here we can see that he said to her. That's why you will be replaced by she. Again, we can't use the verb want because the reporting verb is in past tense, said. That's why want will be wanted, right? Now the to call will be to call. That's all. That is how we are changing it into an assertive sentence. And lastly, the question mark will be replaced by the full stop. So guys, this was all about questions that begin with interrogative words. These were the examples of that. Now the thing that we have to learn is yes/no sentences. What happens? First example, direct speech. Is my wristwatch on the table? He asked. His brother said yes. In the indirect speech it will be, he asked his brother if his wristwatch was on the table, full stop. His brother replied in positive. So this is one pattern that we used in yes/no sentences. First pattern is, see, we earlier discussed this point that if the reported speech does not begin with a WH word or a question word, then in the indirect speech we will use if or whether while transforming the direct speech into an indirect speech. See, this is how it's happening. Is my wristwatch on the table? He asked. First we will concentrate on the first sentence in the direct speech. How can we transform it? Or we can see it like this, that he asked, is my wristwatch on the table? So the he asked portion will be exactly as it is, he asked. Then we have to see that he is asking to whom. See the next part of the sentence, his brother said yes, so he is asking this to his brother. So what we will use here, he asked will be he asked his brother. This is how we transform a direct speech into an indirect speech in case of a yes/no sentence. Now we will use the word if, or we could have used the word whether here as well, but we will only use the word if because it's a question sentence, but in the reported speech there is no WH word or an interrogative word. The if will be used. Now we will transform the reported speech here. How are we doing this? See, it's the same rule. Is my wristwatch on the table? This is a question sentence. This will be transformed into an assertive one. What will be the assertive sentence for this one? Is my wristwatch on the table will be his wristwatch was on the table. How is it happening? See, my will become his. My wristwatch will become his wristwatch because he's asking this question to his brother. On the table will be on the table, obviously, but for the verb portion, is will become was. Why is that? Because here again the reporting verb is asked, which is in past tense. So this was all for the first sentence. We used the word if here because it's a question sentence, but the reported speech does not begin with a WH word or a question word or an interrogative word. Now the rest of the transformation will follow the rule of the previous one only. Alright, and now for the next part, next sentence, his brother said yes. This will be his brother replied in positive. This is how we do that. This is how we transform the direct speech into an indirect speech in case of yes/no sentences. Now the next one, direct speech. He asked, do you want to go? She said no. the indirect speech for this one will be, he asked her if she wanted to go. She replied in negative. Again, what is happening here? He asked will be, he asked her. See guys, in the yes no sentences, we are using two sentences in a direct speech, right? He asked, do you want to go is one sentence. Again, she said no is another sentence. So, in the indirect speech, we have to give the complete information about who is asking the question to whom. So, that's why we are using the complete form here. Like, he asked her. We are telling that who is asking the question to whom completely. Right? So, the first part will be, he asked her. Now, because again, there is no question word or interrogative word or WH word in the reported speech, instead of the comma, we will use the word if. Do you want to go will be, she wanted to go. Why? Because the assertive sentence for this question sentence will be, you want to go. Do you want to go will be, you want to go. But we can't use you want to go because here he is asking the question to her, right? So, the you will be she, want will be wanted because the reporting verb is in past tense, and the rest of the sentence to go will be to go. So, we completed the first sentence. Now, for the second sentence, she said no. This will be exactly how it was in the previous one, but in negative. She replied in negative, right? Now the next example, direct speech. The teacher said to Rima, did you break the glass? No ma'am, said Rima. What's the indirect speech for this one? The teacher asked Rima whether she had broken the glass. Rima replied respectfully and refused it. What is happening here? See, again, first we have to concentrate in the first portion, the first sentence only, which is the teacher said to Rima, did you break the glass? How can we transform this into an indirect speech? Again, what we said earlier, that we have to completely tell that who is asking the question to whom. The teacher asked Rima, right? Now, we will be using the whether here, because again the reported speech does not start with the interrogative word, is just an yes no sentence. Now, did you break the glass will be, she had broken the glass. Why is that? Because again, did you break the glass, this question sentence will be transformed into an assertive sentence. How? We can say that did you break the glass will be transformed into you broke the glass, right? But we have to consider many things here. See, here you will be she, because the question is asked to Rima, she is a girl, that's why it's a she. Again, break will be transformed into had broken. Why is that? Because again, in the reporting verb we can see that it's in the past tense, and the verb of the reported speech, which is did break, this is also in the past tense. That's why in the indirect speech it will be transformed into its past perfect tense, which is had broken, right? Now the glass will be the glass. Simple. Now the second sentence, no ma'am, said Rima. What will be that? Rima replied respectfully. Why did we say that here like this? Because Rima said the word ma'am here. She didn't just say no. Then we will be using the previous examples like Rima replied in negative. If it was like that no, said Rima, then in the indirect speech we would have written that Rima replied in negative. But because she said no ma'am, that's why we have to write that Rima replied respectfully and refused it. Alright, this is how we do that. Now, the next example, direct speech. Are there any more copies to check? She asked. Yes, ma'am, said the assistant. There are. In the indirect speech, it will be following the exact rules that we already discussed in the earlier examples. See, again in the indirect speech we have to completely give the information that who is asking the question to whom. She asked, right? To whom? The assistant. So it will be she asked her assistant. If, we will use if here because there is no WH word or any interrogative word. Again, are there any more copies to check? What will be that in an assertive sentence? As an assertive sentence will be there were any more copies to check, right? Are will be transformed into where. Why is that? Because the reporting verb is in past tense. Now for the rest of the sentence, for the second sentence I mean, yes ma'am, said the assistant, there are. Again, this whole sentence will be converted into just this one sentence. The assistant replied respectfully in affirmative. See, this is exactly how the last example was. Because the assistant said yes ma'am, that's why we had to use this portion that the assistant replied in respectfully. That is why we had to add this word, the respectfully. Now because he replied in positive, so it will be the assistant replied respectfully in affirmative. Now comes the next example. Direct speech. Derek asked, is this the last file? No sir, said the peon. What will be the indirect speech for this one? Derek asked the peon whether that was the last file. The peon replied respectfully in negative. Right, so what's happening here? Again we have to give the complete information of who asked to whom. So it will be Derek asked the peon. Now for the first reported speech, is this the last file? Now first of all we will be using the word whether here, because again the reported speech does not start with a question word or an interrogative word. That's why we will use whether. Now is this the last file? This portion will be that was the last file. Why? Because again, is this the last file? The assertive sentence for this one will be this is the last file, right? But we know that in indirect speech this changes into that, right? Again the verb is will become was because the reporting verb is in the past tense. Lastly, the last file, the rest of the portion which will be exactly as it is, right? Now the next sentence in the direct speech, no sir, said the peon. That will be the peon replied respectfully in negative because the peon said sir, right? Now we will see what happens in case of questions that begin with a helping verb. This is the last type for interrogative sentences or question sentences. The first example, direct speech. He said to her, shall I accompany you? In the indirect speech it will be he asked her if he would accompany her. Now let me tell you that what's happening here. He said to her will obviously be changed into he asked her. The comma will be replaced by if here. Why? Because the reported speech does not start with a question word or an interrogative word or any kind of WH word, right? So we will use if here. Now shall I accompany you will be he would accompany her. now let me tell you what's happening. So technically we should have used he should accompany her here instead of he would accompany her, right? Because we know that the past form of the verb shall is should. Obviously I will be changed into he. Accompany you will be accompany her. But why are we changing the verb here? Why are we using would instead of should? See, you have to understand that if we used the verb should here, the meaning of the direct speech will be changed as well. If we use that he should accompany her, then it will mean something that he must do, like he has to accompany her. But in the direct speech, it's not said like that. He's merely asking her that shall I accompany you? So in the indirect speech, we cannot change the tone of the speaker. That's why we always will use would in the indirect speech, unless it's indicating something that the speaker has to do or the speaker must do. Unless it's meaning something like that, we will always use would instead of should in the indirect speech, right? So shall I accompany you will be he would accompany her. Now the next example, direct speech. She said, had I been doing something wrong? In the indirect speech it will be she asked if she had been doing something wrong. What is happening here? See, she said will be she asked. Now because the reported speech does not begin with a WH word or an interrogative word, that's why we will replace the comma with if. Now had I been doing something wrong? This will plainly become she had been doing something wrong. Understood? The question sentence will be simply transformed into an assertive one, and the question mark will be replaced by full stop. Now comes the next part, the next example, direct speech. He said, has she been coming here? The indirect speech will be he asked if she had been going there. Now what is happening here? See, he said will be he asked. Of course the comma will be replaced by if, because the reported speech does not start with a WH word or any kind of interrogative word. Has she been coming here will be changed into an assertive one, that will be she had been going there. Now we know why has been is used as had been, because it's the past tense. Why? Because the reporting verb is in past tense as well. Now coming will be going, because this is also something that we already discussed in the first part of the narration and narration change video. Here will be there. Alright. Now the next example, direct speech. They said, shall we be going on picnic tomorrow? In the indirect speech it will be they asked if they would be going on a picnic the next day. What is happening here? They said will be they asked, comma here will be replaced by if, because there is no interrogative word in the reported speech. Now shall we be going on picnic tomorrow? It will be changed into an assertive sentence. They would be going on a picnic the next day. Again, see, again we used would by changing the verb shall. We did not use should because of the same reason, because exactly why here in this example, exactly why we used would, this will apply here as well, because again in the direct speech it does not mean something like they have to do. They are merely questioning something like shall we be going on picnic tomorrow? That's why we used would here instead of should. Now we will be obviously they, because the speaker are they. Now be going on picnic will be going on picnic. Tomorrow will be changed into the next day, as we already discussed this also in the first part of narration and narration change. Make sure to check that video out, guys, because there I discussed so many things I'm using the reference of that video so many times, so unless you know what I said in that video, you won't understand many things that I'm saying here. Alright, now we will see the next example. Direct speech. Mother said to him, "Will you have finished your homework?" In the indirect speech, it will be mother asked him if he would have finished his homework. What's happening here? Again, mother said to him will be mother asked him, comma will be replaced by if. Because of the same reason, there is no WH word here in the reported speech. Obviously, we won't use the inverted commas. Right? Now, will you have finished your homework will be he would have finished his homework. Why? Because you will change into he, because mother said this to him. Now the past of will be used, would. Have finished your homework will be have finished his homework. Alright. Now we will see the next one. Direct speech. The traveller said to her, "Can you tell me the way to the nearest inn?" The indirect speech of this one will be the traveller asked her if she could tell him the way to the nearest inn. What is happening here? See, the traveller said to her will be the traveller asked her. The comma will be replaced by if, because the reported speech does not begin with an interrogative word. Now, can you tell me the way to the nearest inn will be she could tell him the way to the nearest inn. Why? Because the traveller is asking her. That's why you will become she. Can will be could, because the reporting verb is in the past tense. It's said here. Now tell me will be tell him, because here the me is the traveller. That's why. Alright. Now the way to the nearest inn will be used exactly how it is here. Right. So now we will see the next example. Direct speech. I said, "May Ella go out to discuss some business?" The indirect speech will be I asked if Ella might go out to discuss some business. What is happening here? I said will be I asked, obviously. Comma will be replaced by if, because again there is no interrogative word in the beginning of the reported speech. May Ella go out will be Ella might go out. Right? Because we are changing the question sentence into an assertive one, and the may will be changed into might because the reporting verb is in past tense. Now to discuss some business will be exactly how it is, to discuss some business. And of course guys, in the last portion we won't use the question mark, we will use the full stop. Right? Now guys, let's see the next example. Direct speech. He said to me, "Must we leave this soon?" The indirect speech for this one will be he asked me if we had to leave that soon. What is happening here? See, he said to me, obviously will be he asked me. Comma will be replaced by if, because the reported speech does not begin with a WH word. Now inverted commas will be gone. Then what will happen? Must we leave this soon will be we had to leave that soon. Because it's said must here in the indirect speech, we used had to. Why? Because it means the same thing, and we had to change the form of the verb in the reported speech into past tense, because the reporting verb is in past tense as well. That's why we used had to. The meaning remains the same. We had to leave. This soon will be that soon. This will be changed into that. We already know why. So guys, that was all about the second part of narration and narration change. What happens in case of question sentences. So guys, if you like today's video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with everyone you know that might need help with English grammar lessons like this one. Also guys, each week I upload 2 new videos in the channel. One is a tutorial video of a topic and the other one is the practice set of that particular topic. So don't forget to check out all the videos that I already uploaded in the channel. Also guys, if you have any kind of trouble about today's topic, or if you have any kind of questions while practicing today's topic on your own, then ask me all your questions and your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see through every single one of them. Lastly guys, don't forget to subscribe to Intelligence Kernel and hit the bell shaped icon beside the subscribe button, so that every time there is a new update in the channel, you get notified about it right away. So guys, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.